Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice, the podcast for women who are done waiting for the one and ready to become the parent on their own damn terms. We're talking fertility, pregnancy, emotional chaos, and the village that it takes to raise a kid. Sometimes you're crying in the bathtub. Sometimes you're crying because your toddler bit you. And sometimes you cry because you chose all of this. Welcome to Motherhood, solo style. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice. I am your host, Laura. Today's conversation gets real and fast. Jess didn't just become a mom. Through her educational platform on TikTok, she's built a space where women considering the single mom by choice journey can find honest information, emotional support, and a clear-eyed look at what this path actually requires. No sugarcoating, no scare tactics, just transparency. In this episode, Jess shares what led her to choose solo motherhood, how she navigated the medical and emotional landscape of becoming a parent independently, and what she wishes more women knew before starting. From fertility decisions to finances, she opens up about all of it. Without too much of an introduction, let's dive in. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? It's nice to officially meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So are you also a single mom by choice, or you're on the journey?
I am a single mom by choice. I have a 15-month-old
Oh my
son.
God, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It has been so rewarding. Also, he tests my patience every day, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Um, it was such a journey to get here. Nothing like yours, which we're definitely going to dive more into. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. It is a pleasure to officially meet you, Jess. I've been following you on TikTok for a little while. Your journey to becoming a single mom by choice has inspired myself, and I'm sure so many other women out there. You share your story on TikTok, so I love that. And I want to dive a little bit more into your story. But before we officially get started, any questions for me?
No, I'm an open book, so feel free to pick my brain.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
All right, first question. Before we get into the details of your fertility journey, can you share with me a little bit about who you are, Jess? What your background is, what you do for work?
Yeah.
You don't have to get into the details of like your actual job, but whatever
Yeah.
you're comfortable with.
So yeah, I won't because I work for a celebrity, so I won't go all the way there.
Oh, nice, fun.
But so let's see, the background is I grew up in New York in the suburbs of New York. I went to school in the middle of the country in Indiana. I moved back to New York in my early 20s. I then moved to LA. I then moved back to New York. I then moved to London, and now I live back in LA. So you can see
Wow.
lots of movement. Um, some of that was based on relationships, some of it was based on job opportunities like going to London. I work in the field of marketing. I work in advertising sales, which means
Okay.
my job is pretty flexible. I currently work from home, which has also afforded me, financially to be able to do this,
Yeah.
because advertising sales is, a great income providing job. And then as well as the ability to currently work from home has given me the opportunity to watch my baby grow up. So I feel
Yeah.
blessed to be in this exact place and space and place right now.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have a nanny too, which is nice because you have her still with you at all times of the day. You can go visit her very quickly if you need to, but you have the help there with the nanny to take care of her, which I love that.
Yeah, so I chose to have a live-in nanny, and I don't live near my family. So my family's still on the East Coast, and I chose to move to the West Coast for lifestyle reasons, and then got a job out here. And then the lifestyle is so good in Los Angeles that I love the fact that my child can be outside all the time, and her preschool will be outside. And I'm just like, oh, it's such a great life for her. So what I was able to do is I chose to have a live-in nanny because then it's consistent care 24/7. And it's frankly cheaper. I know this sounds crazy because it sounds very expensive, and it is, but it's cheaper than having somebody come and be a nanny for my kid 8 hours a day.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is because it's not an hourly rate. You're paying a day rate, depending on what you
Okay.
negotiate with your nanny, but you're paying a day rate because you're giving them room and board and food. You're giving them free rent. The fact that they have somewhere to live, like think about that. If you were negotiating your own job, you'd be like, oh, well, if you're going to pay my rent, like I'll take a lot less money. Um,
Right.
so there's a trade-off there, but then you have somebody in your home, and some people don't love that because they're like, I don't
Yeah.
want to live with somebody. I think it's just like dating. You have to find the person that works for you. I
Hmm.
went through 4 nannies in 20 days to find my nanny. Like I kept on
Oh,
getting,
really?
Yes. It was like, no, get out of my house, get out of my house. And then
Yeah.
my fourth nanny, she's been with me now for 18 months. She came to my baby when she was 4 weeks old. You just have to find your person.
Yeah,
And you
you
need to
do.
feel like they're in your space. You don't feel like she's like background noise here. Like I don't even know she's here. Like we just move, we're in sync. It's just like dating. You got to find, and I haven't obviously found my person, but you just got to find your person when
Same.
it comes to nannies.
And you have to really trust that person too, because they're watching your child all day long.
Yeah, it's crazy. The When I had these four nannies, baby nurses, they started off at, right? When I
Yeah.
first gave birth, I needed a baby nurse. And let me tell you, for all these women that are listening, get a baby nurse, invest in a baby nurse. Did you have one?
I had a newborn care specialist, so sort of the
Okay.
same thing. Yeah.
Get somebody, or even if it's your mom or no, your mom and your sister are not going to do nights. They're not going to stay up at night to take care of your kid. They're amazing. My mom lived with me for the first 6 weeks, but let me tell you, my 78-year-old mom definitely did not wake up at 3 a.m. to give her a bottle.
Oh, yeah, no.
So having like a newborn specialist or having a baby nurse, or whatever you want to call it, or a night doula, right? There's many different words. But having somebody that's main job is to take care of your child throughout the night. It gives you the rest and peace to be able to be a whole human. And especially without having a partner, you need your sleep and don't underestimate that. So when budgeting this entire journey, I think it's very important to think about prioritizing your self-care, at least for the first 4 weeks. I happened to use what turned in my baby nurse turned into my nanny. So I never got rid of her
Yeah.
because I needed to have full-time care because of my work and I travel a lot. But I do think that that's self-care essentially for those 4 weeks will make that transition to becoming a mom because you don't have a partner. You don't have somebody that you can be like, honey, can you go give the bottle? I need to sleep, or I just really need to get a straight 6 hours tonight. You don't
Mhm.
have that. Investing in that is such an important part of the budgeting process of becoming a single mom from my perspective.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was very hesitant to want to pay for that cost right before I had delivered, and then after I delivered, and all the anxieties and everything that come with your postpartum, godsend. Honestly, I was like, she saved the day, and I was able to get the sleep that I needed. Now she was a daytime doula, but still, I was able to get just a few hours of sleep that, in addition to the nighttime where you're up all the time
Yeah,
feeding and all the things.
whether you get your sleep in the day or the night, it's just that
Hmm.
sleep is such an important thing to prioritize as a new
Yeah,
mom.
yeah.
And it's very fleeting and you don't get a lot of it, especially when you're breastfeeding. So I actually had a night nurse, but I was breastfeeding. What I did is I had my night nurse give her pumped breast milk at night, and I just pumped at night. I never saw the baby at night. I would go to bed at
Oh,
10 p.m. I would wake up at, call it midnight pump, wake up at 3 a.m. pump, and then wake up at 6 a.m. and breastfeed.
that was smart.
It was 15-minute increments of my night of where I'd wake up and pump, and then I would keep it in a cooler next to my bed.
Yeah,
And then in the morning, put it into the refrigerator and she would have food for the day.
yeah,
But having that support, whether it's daytime or nighttime, like you want to invest in that extra, and it's an extra cost and it's not cheap, girls. But
I
it
know.
was to your point about like the looking back, and there's so much anxiety about like how much money we're spending, especially as single folk.
Hmm.
Um, and looking back, that's one of the things I would prioritize time and time again. The other piece I think it's important for people to know is that you might even not even know that your company, if you work in corporate, also offers postpartum care. So there are third-party supplemental fertility insurances, Maven or Carrot or Progeny. And the
Okay.
companies invest in not your like Aetna or Blue Shield, like it's not your proper insurance, it's supplemental fertility benefits. And some of these benefits allow you to use the allowance that the company designates to you as an individual towards postpartum care. You might
This
be
is something I'm learning. Yeah.
you might be able to put like 10, my friend just got from Carrot $10,000 or 50, no, she has $15,000 from her company to use towards postpartum. That's a huge amount. That will give you like 2 months of care, months of. So definitely look into asking your H if you work in corporate. Of course, if you work for yourself, you're not going to have that.
Different story.
But if you do work in corporate, I would 100% ask your HR team, do we have any supplemental fertility benefits available? And if not, you can also lobby to ask them to start adding them. So when I was at my last company, when I was going through my IVF, I actually found out that we didn't even have IVF benefits for single moms by choice or same-sex couples. You needed to do IUIs first before you got
Oops.
your IVF benefits, and that's a whole nother thread and story. But I essentially lobbied. I would send emails and saying this is discriminatory, like this should be equal
Mm.
for single moms versus hetero couples. All to say is like, don't think that you're powerless. It has to start, the conversation has to start with somebody, and that can be you. Be the first person to send an email into your organization and say, we don't have supplemental care. Here are 3 companies we could look at. And I would
Mhm.
bring them, I would make the appointments for like Carrot. I brought that company into my HR and I did the meeting with them. Just, know that you as an individual have the power to begin to create change.
Yes, you do.
And you don't know where it will end.
Exactly. Be your own advocate for sure. Well, okay, let's start back at the beginning. You froze your eggs when you were in your 30s, right? Is that where it all started?
Sure did. So I was in long-term relationships. The funny thing is, between 18 and 35, I was in back-to-back relationships and never single. And the irony is now I'm a single mom by choice and haven't been in a relationship in a decade. Um, but at the one of my larger breakups, where it was that moment of time of being like, this is my guy, and I'm going to get married and have 3 kids and a white picket fence. And then I was 33 years old and all of a sudden single. And it was that, oh,
Devastated.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I should freeze my eggs. And the irony is that I actually met another guy at that time who I also then fell in love with. But I was going down this journey of wanting to freeze my eggs.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a mom and I didn't know where this relationship was going to go.
Right.
So I kept on during this relationship freezing my eggs. So during this relationship, this new relationship of mine, I started the egg freezing journey. And at 33 to 34 years old, I did 4 freezes. And this was a decade, oh, it was 11 years ago. And it was very early on. Some education is that in 2012, there was a new technology of fast freezing for egg freezing, which means that previous to 2012, the technology essentially kind of slow freeze your eggs like ice cream, of where you can like scoop it. Like it wasn't like Dippin' Dots. Think about what Dippin' Dots are, like flash freeze, right?
Yeah.
The new technology that came out in 2012 allowed the egg to be flash freezed. And this is not, medical. I don't know what the terminology is medically, but it's this kind of idea analogy. And
Dippin' Dots versus ice cream. That's how I'm going to think of it.
so like soft freeze versus a fast freeze. And what they had told me, which is the truth around this fast freezing, is that it created much better outcomes
Yeah.
because it protected the egg, right? The thawing, the defrosting process, it protected the integrity of the egg much more than this ice cream freeze, if you will. So it was only 2 years into this new technology that I chose to decide to freeze my eggs. I was one of the first guinea pigs, frankly, of the new technology. And I found a doctor in New York City after another friend had gone through the egg freezing process, and I did my first round. And I only got 4 eggs. I was 33. My AMH was very low, and I only got 4 eggs, and I was supposed to get 15 or 20, for my age.
Yeah. Right.
And it was devastating, as you can imagine. What
Yeah.
do I do as Jessica? I was like, oh, well, we're going to do it again. And I'm going to optimize. I do it again and I get 6 eggs and I'm still just as devastated. And then I decided I'm going to do it again. But this time I started reading literature and stuff about how do I optimize my egg fertility. And I remember doing like tons of supplements and I did fertility acupuncture in New York City. And I went back in and on my third round, I believe I got 14 eggs. By the time that I was done, so it definitely did change. By the time
Yeah.
I was done with 4 cycles, I had 35 eggs. And a funny yes and moment is that I went for a fifth cycle, but I had messed up my fertility hormones. I took that shot, I forget the name of it now, that you take 36 hours before your retrieval.
Your
I
trigger shot. Yeah.
Yeah, your trigger shot. I took it days early. So by the time that I went in, like all my blood work was messed up. So I never did my fifth retrieval. After 35 eggs, I was like, okay. They're like, you're going to get 2 kids out of 35 eggs. Like, you're good. All right. So
Yeah.
now fast forward, they're literally on ice. Boyfriend and I break up. And now I'm 35 and single and get sent to work in London for my company. But I have these eggs on ice. So I'm good. So
Yeah.
I go live my best,
Reassurance.
yeah, best
Mhm.
European life and still don't meet anybody and moved to Los Angeles at 37 years old. And again, living my life, trying to date, like same, and don't meet anybody. And then it was COVID. And I was 40 years old and I was like, the time is now. Like if I'm gonna have a baby, like I have to move. That's what then I moved into the process of defrosting those eggs. And I worked with my fertility doctor. This one was based out of New York, and I defrosted half of the eggs. So not all 35, I defrosted 17 of the eggs, and none of them made it to embryos. None of my frozen eggs actually converted to embryos.
Do they know why?
But the challenge is about, and I get this question a ton, especially on TikTok, around
Yeah.
because everyone's like, I froze my
Why?
eggs. Why didn't
Right.
yours work? And
Right.
here's the challenge around eggs. Eggs are a single cell. You
Mhm.
cannot test an egg. So here are the reasons why. It could have been that all of my eggs actually were horrible quality. That's a
You
possibility.
don't know. Yeah.
It
Because
could
you
have
hadn't gone through that process yet of the growth of them,
right,
the
because I had,
maturity. Yeah.
well, until you make an embryo, you cannot test an egg because if you
Right.
test a
You don't
single
know.
cell, you kill the cell.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
use it.
Right.
So it could have been that my egg quality was all bad. It could have been that the freezing process from the fertility clinic was bad. It
Right.
could have been that the defrosting process was bad. It could
Yeah.
have been, any of the mix of these, a bad egg and the thaw or the any of it. So the challenge is that we don't know. It's a big question mark. And this
Hmm.
is why I tell women that until you make an embryo and test that embryo, you do not know if it is a viable potential pregnancy.
Right.
Egg does not equal a viable potential pregnancy. An
Mhm.
embryo gives you a chance. An egg doesn't actually give you a chance. It's a chance of a chance.
Yeah, it's a chance of hope.
So when I went to defrost these 17 eggs and none of them actually created into embryos, and that moment of my life was probably like one of the most devastating days of hope being killed.
Yeah.
I had told my doctor, and she is a friend of mine, and she's wonderful for all people that are in New York City. Dr. Lucky Saycon, you might follow her on TikTok or on Instagram. She just wrote a book, The Lucky Egg, but she's a personal friend, so I had her do my eggs in New York, and I said to her, "Don't call me until we know how many viable embryos I have. I don't want to know how many I have on day 3 or how many day 5. I want to know at the very end how."
And
And I
yeah.
just want to walk people through that because new listeners might not even know what that means.
Hmm.
That means, and then I'll walk you through the day that I got the call from her. But what that means is it starts with an egg. And the first step is that they take the egg out of you and either they put it on ice or they take the egg out and fertilize it immediately. Option one is they'll take a frozen egg, defrost it, and then fertilize it, or they'll take a fresh egg and fertilize it.
Yeah.
Fertilization is where they're adding the sperm to the egg, right? And they're making the beginning of what will become an embryo. And once it's fertilized, do they watch in a petri dish that cell, if you will, grow to a certain extent? And they watch it up to day 3 and they see what's happening on the third day. And then they watch it to day 5. Once it gets to day 5 and it has enough cells, it becomes called a blastocyst. And at day 5 or a blastocyst, that is when it's a viable embryo. Embryos can be day 5, day 6, day 7. Longer the days are, so like a day 7 embryo is not as good as a day 5. So, and then the reason is with the grading is actually different than the days because you can have a graded embryo on a day 7 embryo and a day 5 embryo, and it can have the same grade. But if it's a day 7, I forget the grades now, but
AB or something like that.
if it's a day 5 through AB and it's a day 7 through AB, the day 5 is going to be better. And the reason is it grew faster. It's,
Mhm.
it's more viable. So they like day 5s over day 7s, but day 7s can work still. They're not like discarded yet. So just give that education to people to
Oh, I
understand.
love that because nobody said that yet.
Yeah, and people don't understand. You go into this and you're so blind. Like everyone's so
Mhm.
blind.
Yep.
So you go, I get to this place of where I say to her, just call me when I have all my embryos and you say, Jess, we have 2 girls and 1 boy, right? Whatever it is, like give me that call. And 3 days after I do my fertilization or I do my, she tries to fertilize my eggs, I get a phone call. And I knew that call was bad. I saw the number come up on my phone and I was like, I told her not to call me.
Yeah.
I knew that it was bad news. And I was going skiing with friends in Park City and I was getting my boots on and like getting my stuff. And I get this phone call. And literally, like the wind was taken out of me when it was like, none of your eggs made it to embryos. And then it was, what do I do next? So, one of the things that I've
Right.
done in this process, I have done 10 total retrievals and then 6 rounds of IVF, which I'll get to. But what I said to her in that moment was, what do I do next? It was this constant, what do I do next? I was never ready to stop
Right.
my baby. And the next was either we take the rest of your eggs that are on ice and I try to fertilize them and we put them right in you. Because if we try to meet them in the petri dish and let them wait and expand, we might lose them. So I'd rather just put
Oh,
them right in
wow.
you. And then I said, can I gender select then? Can I? No, you can't until you test the embryo.
Because you won't know what they are. Yeah.
Correct. And I really wanted a girl.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's keep the other eggs on ice and let's go into what else? Now what do I do? And her recommendation was then do IVF and see if you can get eggs out. At this time I was 41. Let's see if you can get some eggs out and they're viable embryos. I ended up taking that advice and I found a doctor where I currently live in Los Angeles. And I went through then multiple rounds of IVF in my 40s in
God
order
bless you.
quality embryos. And then I have a whole other story, which I'll continue to share about how I ended up with a baby girl through reproductive immunology. And from there, I hired this doctor, Dr. De Ugarte, Pacific Fertility Center in Los Angeles. And I remember my first appointment, I saw multiple doctors. During my journey of finding a doctor, some recommendations for those listeners that are just starting this journey is find someone you're super comfortable with. I think I went into
Yes.
like 3 or 4 doctors, and I remember going to one of the best centers and meeting this doctor and being like, I hate you. Like, I want to cry. Like, you made me
Yeah.
just feel like I'm never gonna have a baby, like just Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
And I can't work with you. And then I met the doctor that I ended up working with, and she's like, here's my phone number, text me at any time. I just felt like I got a big hug from somebody, like it was going to be okay. You're in this journey with me. So, part
Hmm.
of this is obviously you want to look at the statistics for your clinic. And there is something called the Society of Reproductive, SART. It's Society of or Reproductive Technology, maybe. I can't remember, but it's SART if you look it up. And it's a database of the stats of the IVF clinics. You can look up to see the efficacy of how well that clinic
They're
does.
performing. Yeah.
Exactly, creating embryos. Something to know and keep in mind though, clinics that don't take on older patients are going to have better overall data because if you take on someone that's 43, 44, 45, the chances of getting them pregnant are going to be very hard. If you have many patients 27 to 35, you
It's going to be
probably have,
easier.
yeah.
Which I didn't know that they could turn away a patient who's older, but I guess I just learned that now.
Yeah, because and some clinics do. It's some clinics, every clinic is different, but that is a question that you want to ask your clinic of do you have any policies around age? At what age will you do fresh retrievals? That will give you an idea, not to say that the clinic is good or bad, but rather their data. If the clinic says we won't do fresh retrievals after 44, let's just say that that's the number, then you know that that clinic's data is up to a 44-year-old. If the clinic says we have no parameters, if you want to try at 48, by the way, you're not going to have great eggs at 48, but I'm just saying,
You might. Who knows? Yeah.
yeah, you might find one. But if the clinic says, yeah, we have no age parameters, then the chances
Mhm.
that their statistics are going to look great are not going to be there because a lot of women that are older are probably going to go to that clinic and not get
Mhm.
success and bring down their numbers. So
Yeah.
look at the data objectively, right? Don't just make a blanket statement of this is good data or bad data. You really have to understand the inputs to that data when you're analyzing what clinic you're going to go with. And of course, to what we were just sharing, it's like some clinics don't want older patients because they don't want their data to be affected. Like they're a business. At the end of the day, we have to remember that fertility clinics, endocrinologists, hospital systems, they're all businesses. All to summarize that in definitely look up the store statistics, but also understand what data is input into that as you're making your decision. I ended up choosing a doctor that I felt that actually had just started a new clinic. There wasn't a lot of data around her success rates, yet a friend had gone to her, gotten pregnant. I met her, really loved the whole experience of her embracing me, giving me her number. I just felt like heard and seen, and I chose to sign up to work with her. All to say is I chose her. I then did my first round. I was 41. I got 6 eggs and I got 0 embryos. Again, I now was just like, it was.
Devastated.
And for those listening, like obviously I got to a healthy baby. One piece of data doesn't mean that it's the rest of the future. I
Mhm.
did that first retrieval, nothing worked. I went back in, I got a second retrieval. On that one, I changed my protocol to mini IVF.
What's that?
So, mini IVF is a little bit controversial because some doctors don't believe in it, and some do. Now, the reason is mini IVF is a lower stimulation protocol, usually often used for women with low ovarian reserve, so older women. And the idea is that you don't have a lot of quality eggs left, right? The number of quality eggs that you're going to have probably much limited now. And mini IVF puts you on a different protocol and medication, much lower gonal F or follistim. They add in Clomid. They sometimes add in growth hormone, Omnitrope. So the protocol is different and less stimulation. So they're feeding less eggs, if you will, and therefore only a few eggs grow. Now, the idea of it
Okay.
is like the, made the best to win, kind of. I'm summarizing it, but essentially, like the best guys are going to be the ones that get the medication, get the food, and grow.
So they'll only retrieve those bigger ones, the ones that hit like 18 and above.
You got it. And more limited. So now I go into my second round. I do mini IVF. I only get 3 eggs. I make 2 embryos. We send both out for testing, and one was a normal baby girl. So I now had this one amazing embryo that was like the same, like my holy grail. Oh my God, I have a chance, right?
After everything, yes.
So we know that there's 65%. Once you have a normal embryo, you have a 65% chance of a live birth, which
Yeah.
also means that there's 35% chance that it won't work, right? There's still, it's not 65 sounds great, but there's a still big chance that it doesn't work. I go into my third retrieval to try to get more. And I end up, I believe on that retrieval, I didn't get anything. I then did a fourth retrieval and I got another 2 eggs, and one was a normal embryo. At this time, I had 2 healthy girl embryos, and I wanted a girl, as you know, and I booked my transfer. So now I'm going to implant an embryo. And my transfer was going to be on April 13th. And I'm in Florida in March, and I'm visiting my friend. And somehow she has 2 young babies. They're very young at this time. They're a year apart. She had them back to back, 13 months. And I'm talking to her about her story, and it's one of my best friends. But when you're in it, all of a sudden your ears perk up of like you want to know everything because she had multiple miscarriages, and I'm listening now. All of a sudden I'm like, tell me everything.
Hmm.
And we start getting into it, and she shares about she had 4 back-to-back miscarriages, and she found a reproductive immunologist. And I was like, wait, what's an immunologist? Have you heard of a reproductive
I
immunologist?
have not.
A reproductive immunologist is a specific type of doctor, not a reproductive endocrinologist, an immunologist that looks at why is your body, from a reproductive standpoint, either not accepting an embryo, like not implanting, or why is it not allowing that embryo to take in your body and grow, so to a full-term pregnancy.
Oh,
So it's a field of medicine that is just specialized on this. Now, they use a lot of, I don't want to call it experimental, but not clinically studied, right? Like, you know how in like the medical field, and of course you can hear I'm speaking, I'm definitely not a doctor, but there is, doctors are like, once there's enough data against something and it's clinically trialed for 17 years, look at like GLP-1s as an example,
right,
then it's safe, right? Reproductive immunology is more of a pioneered area of medicine of where these doctors are thinking about like, well, what else is out there?
right.
So there are, I believe, maybe 5 or 6 doctors in America that focus on this. And after hearing my friend's story about her 4 miscarriages and then finding this doctor, and then she found out what was wrong with her, and then went on this cocktail of medications, and then she had 2 back-to-back great pregnancies and has 2 healthy children. I decided, well, I only have 2 embryos at this time. I'm going to hire this doctor to make sure I'm okay. Because
Right.
what if I go through 2 failed transfers? I'm never going to have a baby. Well, I decided to call a reproductive immunologist. And I laughed because when I got on the call with the doctor's office, they said, well, we've never had a patient that hasn't had a miscarriage. Because I was one of these,
It hasn't had one.
right, because you usually go to them after you've lost babies and you're looking for
Yeah.
your last saving grace of how am I going to have a kid? You find them, right?
Right.
Last
Right.
resort. And I said, I only have these 2 embryos, and I'm 42. And if they don't work, I don't have time. I have no more time, no more money, like all of it. I
Right.
have to make this work. And I said, I'd rather throw some money at the problem and then have you tell me that I'm okay then go into it and then have to call you after when I only have one embryo left. I sign up with them and I cancel my transfer. And you can imagine, because when you first they go through this whole thing, you're like, this is the day I'm doing my IUI, or this is the day of my transfer. It's like this, it's like the day I never got married, but I could assume it's like the day of the wedding. It's like
Right.
the
Uh-huh.
day.
You're right.
And
Everything builds up to that day.
day, right. It's like
Yeah.
your day.
Mhm.
This is my day. And I cancel my transfer, which is like a huge moment for me. And I book appointment with this doctor. It took me months to get into. I get into the doctor, I get all my labs done, and sure enough, I get a call. And it's funny because I remember all these dates because they were so important in my life, June 23rd. And they give me my results and they tell me all of the things that I have wrong with me. And let me tell you, not only did I have the two markers that my friend had that caused her four miscarriages, I also had three other markers that others that are very big and well known to cause miscarriage. And the problem is
Oh,
that
wow.
the reproductive endocrinologist don't actually run all of these tests on you until you have three miscarriages, because that's what the American Academy of Reproduction Society, or whatever the name of their body is, recommends. Once a patient has three miscarriages, then run some of these tests.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some insurance things behind the scenes too.
You got it. Exactly. So here I am being my own advocate, getting all these labs ahead of, implanting. And during this time, I was like, oh, I'll just do another retrieval. So I did another retrieval while I was waiting, and I got
Yeah.
another healthy
Why
embryo
not? Yeah.
with mini IVF. So I ended up doing six retrievals and I got three embryos. Fast forward with this doctor, they put me on a cocktail of medication. So I was on blood thinners, I was on steroids, I was on infusions in order to get pregnant and then carry my child. So my first transfer worked. And I gave birth 19 months ago. And I now have, a near 2 year old, which is crazy because it feels like yesterday that I just had a baby.
Our
And
kids are close in age. Mine's 15 months. Yours 19 months, you said, right?
yeah, and it just feels like yesterday, right?
Oh, wait, it really does. I was just talking to somebody earlier and I was like, it feels like I just had him.
It's crazy. And
How
yet,
did you decide which of the embryos to choose, or were you just like, pick one?
okay, so mine was I wanted a girl. So I was like, okay, which is the best girl? And the best girl, the best graded girl was the first embryo I got. So that first retrieval that I ever did as my child.
It was almost like a sign that she was meant to be at that time, but it's good that you had the reassurance of the other two, right?
Yeah, because and also had I implanted her, because I would have implanted the first good embryo girl, which was her, and I had all of those immunology markers, which we then found out I did have, she wouldn't have
You would
stuck.
have lost her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just so crazy
I
because,
know. That actually gives me the chills.
yeah, I can't imagine her not being a part of my world. It's like she is the only
Mm.
person that was meant to be here.
Yes,
And
she
so, yeah,
was.
so that was from egg freezing to IVF to reproductive immunology to now being a single mom and doing it on my own and figuring it out day by day with no playbook. And by
Yeah.
the way,
You
there's
just
no
guess.
parenting playbook. Also, and I've also decided, and you probably feel the same way, Lara, like I don't think the men they don't add the information either. It's not like if I had a husband, he'd be like, well, I know what to do when the baby's crying at 4 in the morning. Like he wouldn't exactly.
Well, they'd be like, you figure it out.
Exactly. So whether you're a single mom by choice or you're just a partnered mom, right? You have a partner, a lesbian partner or a hetero partner. I guess I would say almost lesbian probably have it best because they have two women that have natural instincts about being moms that
Mhm.
dads don't have. No offense,
Right.
dads. So they probably have it easier than single moms or hetero couples because there's two people with like primal natural instincts about, what does it take to be a mom?
It's funny, when I was pregnant, a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, the husbands are just there kind of for financial, like they don't actually do anything anyway. So, like, you're doing it right by doing it on your own.
And then the other thing, the financial piece, which, I think about a lot because that is probably the one thing that stopped me in my tracks from wanting to do this
Hmm.
is the fear of being the only person that's here to provide for her and her whole life, from education to caregiving to all of it. And when I zoomed out now and been in it, what I realized is that there are actually only two things, and correct me if you think there's others as well, that we're responsible for as single moms. So I can't share my house cost with somebody because I don't split the rent or the mortgage, and I can't share the child care cost with somebody.
Hmm.
But if I had a husband and I had 2 to 3 kids, each of us would be responsible for sending them to, if we were doing private school, for example, both had to pay for one of the kids. We would share the rent and share, we'd each have to pay for our own groceries for the kids. I'm just saying if we had one on one, if we each had a
Yeah.
child. So it's really the cost of your housing and the cost, the very high cost of childcare for those first couple of years. And that's a big recommendation I didn't look into before I did this whole thing. I was always budgeting for my IVF journey, how much it's going to cost to get pregnant and have the baby, not how much it's going to cost from 0 to 5 years old. So, just for those listening and beginning this journey, is I wish looking back, I had also thought about understanding what is the actual cost of childcare where I live. So whether that means a live-in nanny, if it means daycare, I would go to
Yeah.
local daycares and call them and understand what the hours are that they offer and what is the cost of it. I would look at moms groups on Facebook and just ask moms like what is the cost of a local nanny hourly or cost of a live-in.
Or
And
co-share.
yeah, or co-share nannies. Just having a basic understanding. I happen to live in Los Angeles. It is in the middle of the city. It is very expensive. I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. My experience can be very different than if you are in Oklahoma or Indiana and looking for doing the same thing. So
Right.
very important to look in your local neighborhood and with your local resources to understand. So you can just understand, like, okay, in my neighborhood, this is the cost of daycare. And then I have to add on, like, I'm probably going to go out with my friends 2 nights a week, or I need business dinners. So I should add in an extra 100 or 200 there for extra nanny coverage. But just kind of like back of the napkin papering it, just to kind of get an understanding and get a little comfortable with the financial load because it came on like a train. Like when I
Yeah.
got into it, I was like, oh, whoa.
The daycare part, I think, is the hardest because I had already, for me, established the. I'm currently renting, obviously looking in the housing market, which is what it is at the moment. But
I went as well.
that increase of just potentially owning a house, I'm like, oh my God, plus daycare, it's just a financial stressor that worries me every single day. But to your point, like it's only the first few years of their life, and it does get cheaper every year if you send them to daycare. That is one plus, but not much cheaper.
Yeah,
And nannies are expensive and all the other things.
correct.
Yeah.
So I think it's like zero in California now. Pre-K, which is the year before TK, they call it here. The year before kindergarten is free in California now.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
from 0 to 4 is the cost of full, a nanny or a daycare.
It's
Then
expensive here.
I get free school if I do public school. If you do private school, whole different ball game. But
Yeah.
in your area, if TK is not free, then it's 0 to 5. So it's budgeting those first 5 years. After that, if you have public school, that's, where you're going to send your child, you no longer have school cost.
Yeah.
So it's this 5 year burn that's like really, it's like the IVF, like the 2 years prior, and then the 5 year of childcare. That's like really burdening. And
Hmm.
then we get to build again,
Yeah.
then you get to build again.
I don't know about you, but it pains me to not put as much in my savings now because of those daycare costs. I'm like, one day I'll be able to do it again.
Yeah, I look at it, and the reason I was able to do this is like, and I'm self-made. Like, I don't have any family money. It's like I'm not. I've
Same.
been doing my job for 20 years, and I've saved, which has enabled me to do this. And I'm first time in my life not saving. Like just to your point, it's the first time in my life that I feel like I've just stopped. Like the world has stopped. I earn, but I don't save. It comes in and it goes out.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like it just moves like water, right? Now,
Hmm.
granted, if I lose my job, we're in big pickle. But if we, it's just right now, as long as I keep my job and I earn and it moves out like water, at least I'm sustaining myself. And then in the 5 years, I can rethink about, okay, now I can reinvest again. It's really just this period of time as opposed to thinking that like I'm going to never again be able to, support, financially save.
This is a great conversation. A pleasure to meet you, Jess. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to ongoing conversations and continuing to follow you on
Likewise,
TikTok.
congratulations on your child as well. It's so inspiring to
Yeah.
see other single moms that are doing it and sharing our stories and
Great.
letting other girls know that like this You don't, I mean, by the way, I probably like you, like, it's not like I chose this path. I wanted to find a partner. I didn't.
Yeah, right.
Now that I didn't and I have this path, I'm so grateful that this is an option and that I'm a mom.
And that we can share it and build up this community and make it more of a normal thing and not just like a taboo.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
afternoon, Jess.
Bye.
Bye. As we close today's episode, it's important to say this plainly. The journey to motherhood isn't always straightforward, and it certainly is not always easy. Freezing your eggs is not a guarantee. It can be a helpful option, but the science continues to show that embryo freezing often offers stronger success rates. We've also heard this time and time again from the guests and the listeners on this show that when things aren't working, it can come down to the clinic, the protocol, or even donor compatibility. But what Jess had shared with us today, that's something that's new and an added layer to the conversation. Sometimes that embryo doesn't implant because there's a deeper root cause, which we need to get to the bottom of. Exploring reproductive immunology and working with a specialist that may provide the missing pieces can help to uncover the why for so many women who are searching for it. If you are considering the single mom by journey path or just beginning this chapter, maybe you are already a seasoned mama who is navigating the beautiful chaos every single day. This is someone that you'll want in your corner. If you're not already following Jess on TikTok, we highly encourage you do so. We'll include her information in the show notes so you can connect with her in her incredible community that she has built. Before you go, thank you so much, truly, for showing up and sharing this space with us. If choosing chaos has become a small part of your journey, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss more stories of courage, choice, connection, and the chaotic, hilarious realities of motherhood on your own. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, and YouTube. Join the conversation, share your stories, connect with other moms, and help us to continue to build this community with support, honesty, and courage. Thank you for trusting all of us with your hopes, your dreams, and embracing both the beauty and the chaos alongside us all. We will see you next time on Choosing Chaos.